When it comes to the health and safety of our children, you have to think about so many things. Thanks, Steve. You have to come up with ways of protecting them from danger in the world. You've got to come up with ways of protecting them from hurting themselves. And we go to such extraordinary lengths to do this, don't we? For example, we install latches in drawers and cupboards so they can't open them. Or maybe we don't. There they are. That's obviously the hand of a very tall woman. That's a huge hand. We install gates in our homes to keep the little ones from falling down the stairs or going up the stairs, as the case may be. We put plastic covers over the electrical outlets. And I'm not making this next one up. You can even buy a device to lock down the lid of your toilet to keep your toddler from exploring the inside of your toilet bowl. That's a real device. Some of you are thinking right now, we need to get one of those. Does it work for dogs? No, did I say that? I'm sorry. And then, of course, there's the indispensable safety item, the car seat. As the first note on the note sheet says, so much of what we do for our children is about restricting their behavior for the sake of protecting them. And it's not just with little children. From toddlers to grade schoolers to teenagers, we try to set loving limits and boundaries on their behavior. We try to discourage bad behavior and encourage good behavior. There's a name for that. It's called discipline. Applying discipline is perhaps one of the greatest challenges of parenting. Keeping a child from doing something bad when they really want to do it. That's discipline. Getting a child to do something that's good or right when they really don't want to do it. That's discipline. Saying no when the child wants to hear yes. Saying yes, you must when the child says no, I don't want to. Applying discipline can be very difficult because most children really don't like it. Have you noticed that? What's wrong with kids these days? Well, when I was growing up, we got our whoopings. We were proud of it. We were thankful. I couldn't go to sleep tonight. Couldn't go to sleep at night unless I'd had me a good whooping. Yeah. You don't believe that, do you? Children don't like discipline. The teenager doesn't always want to be home by a certain time. The grade schooler doesn't always want to do homework, even though it's due the next day. And the toddler doesn't always want to stay in that car seat. But if you love them, what are you going to do? You've got to make them do it, right? If you love them, that's just part of the deal. If you love your children, you have to apply discipline. As Proverbs 13, verse 24 says, those who spare the rod of discipline hate their children. Those who love their children care enough to discipline them. Proverbs 19:18 says this, discipline your son, for in that there is hope. Do not be a willing party to his death. Wow, that's a strongly worded verse, isn't it? To think that the lack of discipline, the failure to apply discipline, might actually result in greater harm in the future. We discipline our children because we love them. They may not like it, but it's what's best for them. Discipline. The love that no one wants. That's the title of today's sermon, The Love No One Wants. But it's discipline, isn't it? I remember several years ago when my niece Lauren was only 4 or 5. I went out to the store with her and her dad, Mark, my brother-in-law. I remember that we were sitting in the parking lot about to go home when Mark looked back to Lauren, who was sitting in the back seat. She was sitting there in her booster seat. And he asked Lauren to please put her seatbelt on. She refused. He asked her again, Lauren, please put your seatbelt on. She said she didn't want to. Then Mark kind of got up out of his seat, turned around, reached over, and put the seatbelt on for her. Guess what happened next? As soon as he sat back down in the driver's seat, you heard click, and she just pulled it right off. Then he firmly commanded her to put that seatbelt on or we weren't leaving the parking lot. She didn't move. I'm trying hard not to check my watch thinking, okay, how long are we going to sit here? Finally, Mark threatened to punish her in a big way if she didn't put that seatbelt on. Lauren gritted her teeth and she put that seatbelt on. And all was quiet. Then, speaking only loudly enough for her dad to hear, Lauren said this, I wish I had a different daddy. Talk about ripping your heart out. Now, I've not had kids yet. That's how I've been able to keep my figure. But you don't have to laugh that hard. I've not had kids yet. But I tell you what, when I'm around parents and their children, I am all eyes and ears because I'm wanting to learn. Should, it ever be necessary, should I ever need this knowledge at some point in my life, I want to know because parenting intimidates me to death. You're sitting out there, those of you who are parents, saying, it should. So when she said, I want a different daddy, or I wish I had a different daddy, I'm trying not to be too obvious, but out of the corner of my eye, I'm looking over at Mark. And what did I see? I saw a dad who loves his daughter, but looked totally exhausted. You could tell it cut him, but he didn't say anything. He just started the motor and drove home. The ironic thing was that in making her put that seatbelt on, Mark was loving Lauren in just the way she needed at that moment. He was loving her, even though she didn't understand it, even though it didn't feel like love to her. But that's exactly what it was. It was love. Part of the challenge of parenting is to be able to discipline children without losing their love, without making them resentful or bitter. That never happens, does it? I've talked to people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and even older, who still harbor resentment because of something their parents would not let them do. That happens sometimes. That's a big challenge. One of the most helpful things that I've learned in regard to this is something I read from Christian author Josh McDowell many years ago. It's on your note sheet. He wrote this: rules without relationship